Hello again and welcome to the Warhammer 40k video. Now before we get into today's video, I'd like to say a big thank you to Nathaniel Payne for sending in some really cool pictures of his Imperial Guard army. Nathaniel said this is a Imperial Guard army that's built on a 16-year-old's budget MDF basis, for example. I have to say, Nathaniel, you may have a relatively small budget, but you have done a really good job of with this army. Absolutely fantastic. Loads of character in there. Nice, sort of well-rounded hybrid 2,000 point force. Just goes to show how how much you can get if you're a little bit savvy and you spend your pennies wisely. Looks absolutely fantastic. We'll admit a little bit of heresy going on in this army though. Spotted a few Tau helmets on some bodies. Not sure how the Commissar's going to feel about that, to be honest. Might have to have a little bit of a word with the old Commissar there, Nathaniel. Jokes aside, though, absolutely fantastic army. Thank you for sending in your pictures. If anyone else has got any cool pictures they'd like me to use in my videos, please post them on my Facebook page. There will be a link down in the description below. So, without further ado, let's get into today's video. Depending on what I eventually decide to put as the title for this video, it might be quite obvious what today's video is going to be about. I'm just going to come out and say it. It's been a few weeks now. It's since the Marine Codex, the latest version of the Marine Codex, was released. And we've all had time to observe it, to play against it, to play with it, and to determine if the first impressions that we all had were true. That being Marines being bullshit and overpowered. The answer, which I can confidently state now with a degree of certainty, is that they indeed, Marines are bullshit and overpowered. And I'm not the only one saying this. In fact, there is statistical data, and I know a lot of you guys out there like me. You're a nerd, you love your data, you're not about that feelings, you're about that hard fact. Well, good sir, kind sir, I too am about hard fact, data, backing my arguments up with that. And so, I'm not the only one that's noticed that Marines are a little bullshit and overpowered. The data speaks for itself. So, I read an article where over the competitive scene since the Marine Codex has been released, there have been, of the analysis that this guy did in the article, of the 234 games, competitive games that Marines were involved in, they had a 78% win rate. So this is across ITC, GTs, all this kind of stuff. If you've got a Marine army, you've got a 78% chance of winning most games that you go into. That is insane. That is well and above what you would expect from any other faction, including Eldar. Jesus Christ. And in a recent tournament that I'm part of a competitive 40k chat, and recently the top 6 placing players out of a relatively large tournament, 40, 50 plus guys at the tournament. At a relatively large tournament, the top 6 players were all Space Marines, and they were not all Iron Hands. Okay, it's not all Iron Hands. So that is just an indication, and we're seeing this time and time again. I believe it's been the SoCal Open recently, and in the top 12 players, I believe, top 12. I believe at least, I'm trying to remember the top of my head, sorry, but 6 of them were Adeptus Astartes with Space Marines. So the data's out there, guys. Marines are officially bollocks and overpowered. Now, I know what some people would be saying. You can beat Marines. Marines are not unbeatable. No. I am not saying Marines are unbeatable. No way, Jose, am I saying Marines are unbeatable. What I am saying is that they are very good, and that they are very powerful. I mean, hell, back in the day, back in the dark days of 7th edition, You know, there was a list called Wolfstar, which is where you had a bunch of space wolves on Thunderwolf cavalry with loads of characters that were attached to the squad that made it. You could only hit it on a 6, you could only wound it on a 6, and it had a 2+ rerollable invulnerable save. Okay, statistically an almost impossible unit to kill. From an Imperial Guard point of view, literally almost an impossible unit to kill. I beat many Wolfstars going into it. It was a terrible, terrible matchup for me. But I beat many of them. One, because I faced them time and time again in 7th edition. Every tournament you went to, you knew you were going to face at least one Wolfstar army. Typically, you were going to face 2. And so I beat them by just going completely left of field and taking 300 infantry to a tournament. They can kill a lot, but they can't kill 300 infantry easily. So you can beat Marines. You can beat anything. There's very, in a competitive environment, it's a dice game at the end of the day. You can always beat something. But Marines are really, really good. They're really strong. And the data is starting to come out now. Even post FAQ, Iron Hands are still really, really strong. The new hotness now is Imperial Fists. The Imperial Fist Siegebreaker Cohort Centurions. Now I can't remember off the top of my head, guys. I apologise, but there are articles or videos out there which break down the analysis. But I believe that the Imperial Fists Siegebreaker Cohort has the ability to do 50 mortal wounds. So it's one squad of Centurions that can do 50 mortal wounds, which is that's a lot. That's a lot of mortal wounds. The new Salamanders have the ability to do an insane amount of mortal wounds. See, this is just an example. Flamer Aggressors. No one takes Flamer Aggressors. Everyone takes the shooty ones. But Salamanders can take Flamer Aggressors. You see, each Flamer Aggressor gets 2d6 Flamer shots. If they stay still, they get to fire twice. So that is obviously 4d6 per aggressor. So Salamanders get a stratagem where if they stay still, they get a stratagem that says they counter staying still even if they've moved. So you're on your 4d6 even if you move with them. Don't forget they can move in advance with no penalty as well. Then there's a stratagem that says they get the maximum amount, for Salamanders, they get the maximum amount of auto hits with a flamer weapon. So suddenly you've got an aggressor who's getting 4d, even after he's moved in advance, he's getting 4d6 flamer shots, and now he's getting maximum hits with those flamers. So he's getting 24 flamer shots per aggressor. Don't forget you can take a squad of 6 aggressors. So that's 144 flamer shots. That's quite a lot. Then you can take Salamanders. Sorry, Salamanders, their general trait is they get +1 to wound with flamer and melt weapons. So that's pretty good. And then you also get an additional +1 to wound via, I believe it's Crucible of Battle. And finally, they have a stratagem that gives a unit of flamers the ability to do mortal wounds on a 4+. So you have a squad of aggressors putting out 144 automatic hits, which will then on a 4+ do mortal wounds. So that's 72 mortal wounds. Don't forget that that's also 72 additional wounds, which are all at AP -1 because of tactical doctrines. That is the ability, if you can maneuver it right, that is the ability to table a knight army with 1 unit in 1 round of shooting. Don't forget, Salamanders also get access to Vulcan Histan, who lets them reroll all wounds with flamer weapons, I believe. Quote me, tell me if I'm wrong on that one. Now, you may say, but you have to get the aggressors up the field. This is true. You do have to get aggressors up the field. No one is denying that. But you don't even need a full squad of 6. You could simply take a squad of 3 and pop them in a repulsor. It's still going to be a lot of damage. Or Salamanders have a stratagem, I believe, called Heroic Sacrifice, which is essentially like Cloud of Flies, which means they can't be targeted unless they are the nearest unit. So you screen these guys out, and they're going to move in advance of the board. You screen these guys out, and then your opponent will never get to shoot at them until they get into your face. It might take 3 turns to get there, but they're going to get there. And then you might say, oh, but they've only got flamers. You can avoid them. Yes, that is very true. You could avoid them. But then your opponent is making you react to his tactics. If he move those guys into the middle of the board, that is a huge amount of the battlefield, which the opponent is making a no-go zone. A no-go zone. So I've given you a couple of examples there. You know, the new Marines are absolutely incredible. And I have an example, and you really, really notice this when you're using Marines, you're using Space Marines from the Space Marine Codex versus Space Marines from like the Blood Angels, the Dark Angels, the Space Wolves. Those armies which haven't got access to all this crazy bullshit yet. I had a game last week versus one of my regular opponents, absolutely fantastic guy who uses Blood Angels. We both made a couple of tactical mistakes. I was using my Black Templars, wasn't using the Black Tide, was using a typical mechanized Space Marine force. 3 Razorbacks, Land Raider Crusader, had a Dreadnought, and some Termies. Not even a competitive army. I had 3 Razorbacks, 2 with Heavy Bolter, 1 with Assault Cannon. No one takes Heavy Bolter Razorbacks, but anyway. I had Land Raider Crusader, which not a lot of people take. Imperial Fistblades started taking them because they're good for their tactics, and also it's a good way to get your Centurions up the field. And I had an Ironclad Dreadnought, which no one takes. Okay. And then I had Tactical Terminators. Again, no one takes Tactical Terminators. And then I had Crusader Squads, which are like Tactical Squads, but 1 point more per model, so therefore worse. So what I'm trying to get across to you guys is I wasn't running an optimized list. That's the impression I want you to get. Now, my opponent was using a relatively standard Blood Angels list. He had a Storm Raven. He had some Tactical Terminators. He had a Librarian Dreadnought. He had a Blob of Death Company. He had a Sanguinary Priest. He had a Chaplain. He had a Smash Captain. And he had 3 squads of Tacticals and some Scouts. And he had 2 drop pods of Stern Guard with all Melter. So his list was not optimized either. It was a fairly balanced game. You know, Land Raider Crusader versus Storm Raven. Tactical Termies. I had a little bit more mechanized. He had drop pods. What we're saying here, guys, is neither force was using a super optimized list. I would probably argue that my opponent, his list was slightly more optimized than mine. Slightly more. It was a fucking massacre, pardon my language. It was an absolute massacre. Barry didn't stand a chance. And it was so obvious, the power disparity between the 2 armies, it wasn't even funny. Like, my Crusaders would be in cover, and Barry would shoot me, and I would get a 2+ save from Bolter Fire. My Crusaders would be in the Tactical Doctrine, would shoot back. Barry's only got a 3+ save, because I've got AP-1 bolters. So we had 5-man units trading fire across the battlefield, and he just, both costing the same amount of points, both using the same weapon. He didn't get close to getting rid of me, and I cleared him out. I think I lost 1 Marine, he lost 5 Tactical Marines. That's an example. Just madness, absolute madness. And that is literally someone. I was facing an opponent who was using, before the new Codex came out, the most powerful version of Space Marines. Blood Angels were considered the only sort of viable competitive Marines you could run. I'm speaking generally here, guys. But Blood Angels were considered to be, if you're going to take Marines to a tournament, Blood Angels are the way to do it. That's the old top Marine army versus the new not top Marine army. And it was crushed. Absolutely crushed him. The week before that, I used my Black Tide against an Ultramarine list, and I got tabled. Or maybe I had a couple of guys left. Not a lot. I think I had a few characters left at the back of the board, not a lot. And that's my Black Tide does not get tabled, guys. My Black Tide, it's a lot of Marines in power armor running at you. Okay, I couldn't get near the Marines. Could not get near them. All the AP modifiers, it's impossible. My opponent wasn't even using a particularly optimized list. He had a Thunderfire Can, a couple of small unit of aggressors, then a quad Las Predator. Like there was some good units in there, but it wasn't optimized up to the nines. So the problem with the new Marines is this. Now there is a counter argument that someone will say. Recently, and I'll give you an example. Marines are still getting beaten at tournaments. Yeah, of course. Okay. And an example of this, I talked about SoCal Open. Well, Marines didn't win SoCal Open. Tau did. So, you might say, well, Tau are still dominating tournaments. Fair enough. But, to be honest, it's one sort of specific Tau list that is dominating tournaments. And I could be wrong about this, but typically it's lists that use a lot of broadsides and a lot of riptides. These are the lists. It's not the whole Tau Codex. It's not like you face a different. It's not like it's a different Tau list that's winning every tournament. It's typically built upon those two core units. There are obviously varieties on it, but you always know there's going to be some broadside spam or some riptide spam or both. The Marine armies, no two were the same. They were all very, very different. So this is what I'm saying. Like a normal player with his Marine army with a sub-optimized list can now turn up to a tournament, and he's got a good chance of winning 4 out of 6 games. A good chance against lists that were just a couple of months ago were just downright better than his. Okay. Other factions have a list which can do very well, but the other parts of the codex you just don't see. You don't see in the top tier. So what Marines it's like facing old style Eldar. They don't have a bad unit option. That's what Marines are like. You could turn up into a tournament with a pretty fair, standard Marine list now, and you'll do all right. You'll do fantastic. You'll probably win more games than you lose. Whereas other people have to turn up with either wacky lists like I like to run, 240 infantry, which just find a point in the game, a pressure point, we've talked about this before, find a pressure point in the game and break it. Or they use the most efficient unit choices, and it's a specific list that can do it. Marines don't have to worry about that anymore. So, and look, it's not just myself which is saying this. My local GW guy, he's GW store manager, I should say. He's running a local sort of event, such like a campaign kind of thing. And I think he's got 10 people taking place in his event. 8 of them are Marines. There's like one guy's using Necrons. I think one is using Orcs, but I don't know for certain on that last one. I definitely know one's using Necrons because he's my mate. So, and the thing is that everyone has a Marine army that you can, pull out. Everyone's got Marines. Also, Marines are the most common faction. So, what you're seeing at tournaments now, guys, is essentially, it's like 30k. You're seeing a lot of 30k, except for it's Imperium fighting Imperium. It's not Imperials fighting heretics. It's mad, and it's a bit annoying as well, because I want to get my I wouldn't be as bothered. It might sound crazy. I wouldn't be as bothered if Chaos had the same treatment. I have a Chaos army. I have a Berserker army that I really, really need to get around to finishing off and painting. It's so close. I just keep getting distracted by painting these gorgeous Mordians at the moment. But if Chaos had the same treatment, I wouldn't be too bothered, because it'd be like you'd see a lot of Chaos versus a lot of Space Marines at tournaments, and that would be cool. Like, I'd have no problem, because that is the main fight of 40k. To be honest, Xenos aren't the main focus of 40k. Imperial Guard, Adeptus Mechanicus, all those minor sub-factions We're not the main focus of 40k. 40k is Space Marines versus Chaos Space Marines. Horus Heresy style. That is 40k. I'd have no problem if most tournaments were dominated by Chaos and Marines. No problem with that at all. I'd feel like I was like a little sub-minor faction involved in this big war, you know. That would be cool. But the problem is that, man, like, Chaos just dropping off the face of the earth in the tournament scene. I think I faced one Chaos army. Maybe one or two in the last couple of events I've been to. I can't even think. I don't think I faced one in the last tournament I went to. I don't think I faced a Chaos army in the last tournament I went to. And that's bad. The one before that I faced one Chaos Marine army and one Chaos Demon army in the last 3 tournaments I've been to. That's pretty bad. Faced plenty of Marines though. And I'm not saying that I have not been able to beat the Marines. I have. Like I said, they're not unbeatable. You can beat them, no problem. It's just really, really, it's not easy. It's not easy, and they are incredibly strong at the moment, guys. They are. I've typically struggled. I'm struggling more and more to beat Marines now because people are figuring out the codex. I wasn't too concerned at first because people were bringing their old Marine armies out and I was able to beat them and I was like, oh, it's not too bad. But now people are learning, adapting, changing, and it's like it's the opposite way around now and it's getting hard. You know, normally when a faction comes out, it takes a while for people to adjust to then be able to beat them. With Marines, they're just getting stronger and stronger as people are figuring these combos out. But hey, look, they're not unbeatable. They're just very, very strong. They could do with a bit of a balancing, to be honest. They're just, like I said when I first saw Marines, they're just one step too far. Maybe 2 or 3 steps too far now with all the special wacky supplement shit. But, personally, I don't think... There's a few things that... there's 3 things that I would do to bring them... 4 things I'd do to bring them down a peg, okay? This is how Mordian Glory would bring balance to the Marines, okay? Number 1. You should only get Shock Assault when you charge, okay? It is a shock assault. It's not you are oh, I'm shocked. How dare you assault me? I will kill you for your impudence. No, it's shock assault. You should only get the bonus for when you charge. Okay, simple as that. Just makes it so that if you get the drop on Marines, you've got a good chance of beating them. Okay, in combat. Second thing is tactical doctrines should be 1 use only. So you still get your heavy, your devastator doctrine, you still get your tactical doctrine, you still get your assault doctrine, no problem with that. But like it used to be in 7th edition Marines, with Ultramarines, who were the ones that originally got this shit, they could activate it and that power was available for the turn. Tactical doctrine should be 1 use only. It's only like Ynnari being able to soul burst like once a turn, once a game, isn't crazy now, or like how it used to work. So when they would before Ynnari got completely nerfed into the ground. Tactical doctrines should be something you activate at the start of your turn, and then it lasts for that turn, and then it's done. So typically you're still going to get 1 great turn with your Devastator Doctrine and 1 great turn with your Tactical Doctrine. And if you're the kind of army that likes his Assault Doctrine, go nuts. And you should be, and to balance it a little bit, I'd say you can activate them in any order you want. You want to activate your Assault Doctrine turn 1, you go for it. You want to activate your Devastator Doctrine turn 3, you go for it. You go, girl. I don't care. But it's 1 use only. That's how I'd do it. Third thing is they shouldn't... They got their chapter tactics overhauled, which is great. But then they also now get like combat doctrine as well, which is when they're in a certain tactical doctrine, they gain a bonus. So, like for example, Iron Hands, when the Devastator Doctrine can move and shoot without penalty and get to reroll 1s to hit. Ultramarines, when they're in the tactical doctrine, always count as staying still even if they move. They shouldn't have got that as well as the revised chapter tactics. They should have got the old chapter tactics plus the combat doctrine shit, not both. So you either got the awesome brand new tactics, you either got the awesome brand new chapter tactics, or you get the shitty old ones and the combat doctrines, but not both. Not both. That's ridiculous. And lastly, successors shouldn't get all the bonuses of their progenitor chapter. Sorry, you shouldn't get it. Because the problem is that now successors are becoming more powerful than main legions. It should be a case of, if you have dedicated yourself to a main named chapter, then you get all the bonuses that are attached with that chapter. But guess what? If you go to a tournament, like Games Workshop does it, if you're in a tournament, you have to use that chapter that you've built. You have to use it. If it looks like an Imperial Fist, it has to be an Imperial Fist. None of this if it looks like an Imperial Fist, but actually it's a Ultramarine successor. No. But the benefit of getting, locked in to a certain chapter is that it's quite powerful. Where successors should be like, you get none of the progenitor shit, none of that, not unless you take the trait, the trait which lets you get the progenitor stuff. Or you can customize your chapter. It'll be a little weaker, but then from game to game, you can just pick your different traits however you want. That should be the bonus. They're the 4 things I would do to bring balance to the Marines. Pardon me. But there you go, guys. What do you think? Am I being stupid? Is my judgment clouded? Do you agree with those statistics? And how would you, if you think it's necessary, how would you balance Marines? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and of course, I'll see you guys next time.